I'll trickle in. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and for the professors for taking the time out of their day to come and talk about their amazing honors classes that will be offered in the spring. Before we get started, I just wanted to check in with you all about some things that have been happening in the Student Society this year so far. We've had a Bob Ross painting event, trivia night, personal branding and career services presentations, and a bunch of other things. And like I said before, unfortunately, our attendance hasn't been the best. We know that everyone's tired of staring at a screen because they've been doing it so often for school and everything, and completely understand not wanting to join in, but we're glad that you guys are here right now and hope you can join us for future events. We will be recording more of our events and sending them out to you all in the weekly emails and posting them on our YouTube channel. So that will be good. You all can get the benefit. For future event-wise, we have a TikTok competition that you can check out all the details in our email. How to get research positions presentation that I believe is tomorrow. And then we're having a freshman committee interest form that's being sent out in our email as well. So definitely check that out if you are interested. And like I said before, you can see that in the email or on our social media, which is on Instagram, mostly is our biggest platform. It's at SDSU WHCSS. And also in the chat, I will put a link to our feedback form. One second. That everyone can, where is it? There we go. To give us any feedback if you want to see certain events or anything like that. So feel free to utilize that. Let me post that really quick. So yeah, after this, if you want to take a few minutes to let us know what you thought and what you want to see for future events, that would be great. So with that being said, let's get on with the event. So today we're going over the honor professors teaching honor 113, 313, and 413, so everyone can get their questions answered during our live Q&A at the end of the presentation. And as a reminder, as you guys probably saw in Michelle's email, these classes are basically reserved for sophomores and above because the freshmen might not be able to get into an honors class next semester. But if you're here, thank you so much for coming, and I hope you learn a little bit of something. So we'll get into the classes right now. Oh, so first we have Honor 113. We have Borders, Migration, and Detention in the Americas with Professor Catherine Swanson, Applied Creativity with Professor Ryan Goetz-Luchner, Cardi B and Pop Culture Politics with Professor Nathan Rodriguez, Identity in Music with Professor Naveed Zamani. And again, all these courses are online. So first with Professor Swanson, she could not make it, so we have a video that we can show for everyone.
Hey everybody, my name is Kate Swanson. I'm a professor in the Department of Geography. And this spring, I'm teaching a new course called Borders, Migration, and Detention in the Americas. Let me begin by telling you a little bit about myself. So I've been working on migration for about 20 years, mostly Latin American migration. I've done a lot of work in Ecuador as well. But I'd say over about the last 8 to 10 years, I've worked pretty extensively with unaccompanied migrant children in the border region. And these are kids that have been in detention in the US and in Mexico. And then finally, in the last 3 years, I've worked pretty extensively in immigration detention in the United States. So through all of these experiences, I've learned quite a lot about borders, migration, and detention in the US. And so what I intend to do with this class is share this knowledge with you. So the main objectives of the class are to, one, try to understand the many reasons that are pushing migrants to leave their home nations in search of refuge in the US. Why are so many people leaving their homes? And why are they coming to the US? Secondly, I'm hoping that we will develop more understanding of very complex US immigration policies and practices, as well as debates. Third, I want us to learn more about immigration detention. You've probably heard a lot about this in the news, so I'm hoping we can learn more about some of the practices surrounding US immigration detention. And then finally, as a service learning course, I'm hoping that you can learn more about opportunities and potential partners in immigrant justice organizations in our region. So again, as a service learning course, there's two parts to this. One of this is that you'll be hearing from justice organizations in our region and possibly further abroad as well. But secondly, we will be writing letters to asylum seekers currently in US immigration detention. This is an ever-changing situation. So people are being deported very rapidly right now. But my hope is that by communicating directly with an asylum seeker in US immigration detention, you will have an opportunity to learn firsthand from someone who is going through that experience and try to have a better understanding of why they've left their country, why they've come to the US, and what they're experiencing in our nation while they're in detention. In terms of the structure of this class, it will be mostly synchronous. So what does that mean? The class is scheduled as a 3-hour class, but most weeks, I don't expect us to spend more than 2 hours in class. This is because I'll be asking you to watch a lot of documentaries and short films, and typically this would have been done in class, but since we're on Zoom, I'm not going to try to stream movies for you on Zoom, so you'll be watching those on your own time. I also want to recognize that Zoom fatigue is a very real thing, and so I'm going to try to keep our classes shorter so that we can have more opportunities to do research and have more online collaborations outside of class time. I want to warn you that this will be an intense class. So some of the subject matter will be very intense, difficult, and also very contentious. But this is a really critical issue. As you know, we have an election going right now. Immigration, detention, borders are critical to that election. And I'm really hoping that as a class, we can really open our minds and try to work across our differences to figure out how we can, as a nation, approach migration, borders, and detention in the US. By the end of this course, I'm also hoping that students will have developed some of the skills, confidence, and knowledge that they need to become more involved in local or regional and national civic issues, particularly as they affect our border region, because we're living on the border in San Diego. Finally, before I end, I just want to say something about learning in a pandemic. I think, as we all know, life is really hard right now, and I think many of us are struggling. So I just want to acknowledge that and let you know that I'm willing to work with you and help you succeed during this difficult time. Okay, thanks, and I hope to see you in the fall.
Perfect. So she's so sad that she couldn't make it. And she told me, she's like, I realized I said the fall, it should be the spring. But if you have any questions, she said, feel free to email her and I will post that later. Now we have applied creativity. Professor Goldlucher did never reply to my email, unfortunately, so we can't get a point of view from him, but you can refer to the course descriptions that Michelle sent out for more information. Now we have the fun little graphic that was literally made my day when I got in the email. We have Cardi B and pop culture politics with Professor Rodriguez.
Hola, everybody. Professor Rodriguez here. My pronouns are he, him, él. I am a professor in the School of Journalism and Media Studies, as well as a core faculty member in the Digital Humanities and Global Diversity Initiative. This class is kind of the second in a sequence of classes that I'm developing around what I'm calling pop culture pedagogy. So I spent 13 years in my professional life as a on-air talent for Clear Channel Radio in Texas before becoming an academic, getting my PhD, and teaching. So for me, I see the area of pop culture as a space where we can bridge the understanding of theories and research with what's happening in the pragmatic professional world. And so in all of my classes, I like to kind of use pop culture as a way to help students better understand that. This class in particular really is using Cardi B as kind of an example, as a gateway to explore the world of pop culture and how it affects politics and how politics affect pop culture. Most recently, Cardi B has kind of been thrust into the spotlight for her condemnation of President Donald Trump. She has also a lot to contribute in the social media ether about issues of gender and sexuality, issues of race and ethnicity, issues of just politics in general and how it affects those in lower social economic neighborhoods. She uses her social media platforms as a way to kind of get understanding from her fans and her followers to be able to navigate these kind of real issues that other people who follow her are kind of grappling with as well too. So she's kind of be kind of the way that we use Cardi B and pop culture as a lens to investigate this larger issues of politics. We're going to cover issues that have to do with Beyonce, Oprah Winfrey, Kanye West. And so this class really is focused on kind of using pop culture as a way to look at what's happening now in our socio-political states, because this is happening in spring 2021, and we heard a little bit of this already. It's going to be a very tumultuous time for a lot of individuals, regardless of the outcome of the 2020 elections. And so I think it's going to be a perfect area for students to come together and find a space to be able to share and talk about what's happening in the socio-political world through pop culture. The class is set to be every Monday from 4 to 6:40, but just like the other class we just heard from, I probably won't keep you the entire time because I will be asking you to partake in media consumption and also to create different types of projects. You're going to be watching shows like Pose, Moonlight, Black Panther, different types of pop culture shows. So there's not going to be really a book required for the course. You're really going to be ingrained with Hulu, Amazon Prime, and Netflix. And then you're going to be using Adobe Spark to create a project at the end of the class that is of your choosing that really investigates that nexus of pop culture and politics. And that's it.
That is so, so cool. Definitely a fun and modernized class, and everyone should take that. All these courses everyone should take, but it's super exciting. Now we have Identity in Music with Professor Naveed Zamani.
Hi everyone, good to see you all. My name is Naveed Zamani. I'm a marriage and family therapist. I teach in the counseling and school psychology department. Well, honestly, Dr. Rodriguez's class seems pretty cool. I might just take that one myself. But maybe as a nice segue to my own, my class is, like the title says, Identity in Music. So it's interested in exploring and inviting students to kind of make sense of, understand their own reciprocal relation to constructions of identity and the musics we listen to, kind of exploring that through the ways that particular forms of dissonance in various genres can start to construct community, and like the ways that sonic waves in music reverberate out into relationships and community building and the ways that we start to make sense of who we are. So in a lot of ways, just kind of shaped by my own work and history, I'm interested in exploring through music the ways that we might resist kind of Western individualist notions of personality and rather explore the multiplicity of identity shaped by context. Just like if I was to ask you what's your favorite song or favorite artist, it's really hard to name that. And the relationships you're in and the context that you're in and the time that you get asked that question all matters to respond to that. And I think who we are is a similar artful way to think about our lives. Our class, well, I'll just be totally upfront. Like most of the class is going to be being in class together, listening to music together in discussion. So I'd say maybe in contrast to some of the other classes, I try not to go the whole time, but I do end up going the whole time often. And I guess one thing that I really enjoy about the class beyond, beyond the discussions and engagement with students, kind of getting to hear about your own lives and sensibilities around music, is we do a self and music presentation, and like you describe your life through the context of music and your relationships through music. And also in discussions exploring the political frameworks in which music is located in. So whether that's through our own lives, through exploring marginalized communities and their relationship with music and communities that build music. Yeah, well, I mean, maybe it's not a fair thing to say as the person who teaches it, but I think we have a lot of fun. And yeah, so if you ever have any questions for me, just feel free to email me. I've got to sign off at the end of this, so I won't be around for the end, but please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions about my class.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Professor Zamani. I really appreciate it. That is the end of our 113 classes. So now on to Honor 313. We have Humanity's Journey Towards Evil or Hope with Professor Bruce Harley, The Soviet Experiment and Its Legacy with Professor Zamira Abman, Justice and Ethics in the Humanities with Professor Walter Penrose, Higher Education and the American Dream with Professor Martha Enciso, Global Food Security with Professor Jim Murin, and all these courses are online as a reminder. And we also have Intellectuals in the 20th Century Europe with Professor Eve Kornfeld, Incivility and Intolerance with Professor Michael Caldwell, Literature and Law with Professor Tishna Asim, and Multidisciplinary Perspectives on Child and Family Well-Being with Professor Nancy Gannon-Hornberger. So let's get started with Professor Harley's class, Humanity's Journey Towards Evil or Hope.
Hi, everybody. Glad I could join you all. These classes are always amazing. I've been privileged to be able to teach in the Honors College, was programmed for over 10 years. This course has morphed over time. It has become dedicated to refugees. I have worked closely with the International Rescue Committee, started in part by Albert Einstein, for over 10 years, and I've been working very closely with refugees, and they've become a large part of my life. More generally speaking, this class, I know it's a very grandiose title, is looking at our brains as flawed organs. It's looking at our cultures as flawed inventions, creations. It's looking at evolution of culture since domestication as leading to a lot of unintended negative consequences. It also takes a close look at identity as something that's easily manipulated for better and for worse. I tend in all of these things to focus mostly on the worse, meaning how could evil be possible? I'm trying to create for my students a framework by which they can understand why evil, and by evil I mean mass evil, like genocide, human trafficking, child soldiers, you name it. So yeah, it is a very at times dark course, which is harder to teach in these COVID-19 times, I have found out beginning in last spring. So I try to do my best to make sure from the day one, I infuse as much hope as I possibly can into this course and clarify for students why from the course content, despite the fact we're headed towards examples of evil, they should have hope and feel hope intensely. In terms of the structure, it is Tuesday, Thursday. I've been teaching at the same time for a long time. I pretty much occupy those full hour and 15-minute time slots. I should remember to say that in the past, my students have been required to volunteer tutoring, mentoring local refugees and immigrants at a couple high schools or in local colleges. That can't be done now. So this semester, I have my students choosing to tutor, mentor local refugees through Zoom. And some of them have chosen to do that for extra credit. I hope someday I can go back and have my students be required to do it face-to-face as I have done for years. In terms of what I expect of my students, there's no tests, no exams. I gave it up a long time ago when I was teaching Anthro 102. My students have to write a fair bit. There's a brief reading or viewing assignment for each single class we have during the semester. And there's 4, I will call mini projects scattered throughout the semester. My students are working on the 3rd one of those as I speak here tonight. That basically is the way the course is graded. I try to learn from my students as much as possible. Many of the PowerPoints I show in class, some of the ideas I present in class, I've learned from students from last semester, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, it doesn't really matter. So I see this as something of a partnership. I'm not sure my students quite see it that way, but I sure do. And I look forward again to the opportunity to teach in the spring. I wish it was face-to-face. It will be synchronous during those Tuesday, Thursday time slots. I'm more than available via email. I also cannot stay for the rest of the presentation because I have to use Zoom to tutor a couple refugees later this evening, who are SDSU students, I might add. One in a master's program, I might add again. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I don't want to take too much of your time. Again, I am more than available to answer questions about my class via email as the time goes by. Thank you, Morgan, for inviting me. Take care, folks.
Professor Harley. I really appreciate it. Now we have the Soviet Experiment and Its Legacy with Professor Zamira Abman.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, just trying to adjust. Lack of childcare makes everything so complicated. Thank you for your patience. Thank you again, Morgan, for inviting me. Can you make me a co-host so I
Yes,
can?
I will do that right now.
Thank you so much. Just want to share this one screen. Perfect. Not that it's that. I should have. I wish I had schedule number for this class. Okay, great. Oopsie-doo. Okay, that's it. You can see the screen, right?
Mhm.
Okay. This is the first time I'll get to teach this class. I typically teach capstone classes, the one that you have to take in order to exit honors program. I also teach honors 113 Middle Eastern gender. Stacey Sinclair offered me this incredible opportunity to teach Soviet experiment. I could not be more excited. I was born and raised in the Soviet Union. I actually, in fact, only learned history from a Western perspective when I moved to this country at the age of 16. And that's exactly what I would like to bring to you with this class. I would like to show you what Soviet Union looked like. It only existed for one generation, believe it or not, for 74 years, plus minus, but it has captured our imagination. It completely changed the way your parents or your grandparents' generation lived their lives, and we're going to talk about that. Through discussion of Cold War. We'll first and foremost, we'll start with a Russian Revolution. We'll investigate this question whether it was betrayed. Then we will walk ourselves to this long totalitarian regime under Stalin, where we will visit the question of totalitarian regimes that actually essentially shaped the history of European civilization, European history in 1920s through 40s. And then we will also talk about World War I, World War II, very much kind of bringing it to present moment, to discussion of Putin and his popularity. I would say that uniqueness of this particular class will have a lot to do with kind of this marriage of two perspectives, Western and Soviet, looking at this history. We will also apply various diverse approaches. I hope to incorporate music that I grew up with and the meaning of it in that part of the world, the food, as well as cultural norms. Most importantly, I hope to convey to you what it meant to be a Soviet citizen, how Soviet citizens internalize the message of their regime. They learn to speak Bolshevik. And I think that what hopefully will make you connect in various ways to totalitarian regimes, totalitarian leaders, and how that that nobody is immune from that. Again, do not want to take up too much of this time that I've been given. I would love to stay for Q&A. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me directly. I will be giving Morgan my contact information. Looking very much forward to this class. I think it will be great. Can I address questions that might, I guess there is no room for that right now.
You can if you want to, since you won't be able to make the Q&A.
Yeah, any questions so far? Maybe there aren't. Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for this opportunity, everyone. Really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in my classes. Look forward to staying in touch, as Morgan said. Okay. You guys have a. Oh, yes,
sorry,
please.
Question. How long is the class? Like, are you planning to do the 3 hours or?
Autumn, thank you for that question. We will meet twice a week. It's an early from 9, I believe, to close to 11 o'clock class. I plan to make it seminar-based. We'll, of course, incorporate lecture. I've been certified to teach on Canvas online classes, so I will be populating Canvas extensively and hope to use our class time mostly for discussion. And it's been pretty successful this semester.
I have
Yeah,
a question.
Thank you.
sure.
Will the
Audrey?
class be more discussion based, or like will there be a lot of tests or writing or?
Yes, I will incorporate multiple choice tests just to kind of, make sure that you're getting all the details that we might not get to in our discussion via Zoom. But I expect you to successfully, complete those tests. I typically give my students 2 attempts to complete multiple choice questions. They're to set you up for success, not to necessarily, trick you into anything you don't know. Again, I've been using Canvas quite extensively, and the tests will be mostly multiple choice on Canvas. The time together will be spent on discussing not necessarily long readings, but the kind that I feel will help you relate to the material, because we will be incorporating a lot of discussion of what it was like to be living through the Soviet era, everyday experiences. Soviet was kind of, again, experiences of Soviet people in the Soviet Union through their memoirs, as well as in this part of the world. Any other questions? Terrific questions. Thank you. I'm also happy to make a video and include more information regarding this class, Morgan, if that would be helpful. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, I don't see any more questions. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you. All the other classes sound so fascinating. I wish I was honors student taking out all of them. Guys, good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go back to sharing my screen. Perfect. Can everyone see? Okay, great. Now we have Justice and Ethics in the Humanities with Professor Walter Penrose.
Hello, everyone. I'm Walter Penrose. I teach in the Department of History. And so, I'll begin with a couple of rhetorical questions. Is there justice among thieves? The question that Plato asked, the Greek philosopher Plato. If thieves divide up their stealings, in equal parts, is that just, right? Maybe I'll ask another question as well. Is what comes out of the Justice Department actually just, right? And so we'll think about the difference between justice and ethics in this course. You may answer that question differently than I would, but sometimes things coming out of the Justice Department raise my eyebrows, right? And then the question would be, is that ethical, right? So justice tends to be whatever the powers that be say is just or lawful, whereas ethics is really about what is fair. What is it that human beings, right? If they divided things among themselves equally, how would that look? And so in the course, we'll look at a number of different authors. We'll start with ancient Greece. I'm a historian of ancient Greece. So we'll look at a tragedy, the Oresteia by Aeschylus. And there's a lot of issues of gender that come up in that, and justice relating to gender. We'll look at Plato's Republic, which is a very interesting book to read. We'll look at some historians, Thucydides and Herodotus. And then we'll take a look at some medieval literature, Beowulf, which is a particularly interesting book. And then something I haven't done in the past, this is kind of new and I've changed my course a little bit. We'll also be looking at Dante's Inferno, which is a rather famous text. I've taken some students to Florence, including some honor students in the past. So Dante is from Florence. So we'll talk about Dante in the context of his life. And then we'll move on to the modern period and look at some more philosophy, looking at authors such as John Locke and Karl Marx, right, the Communist Manifesto, to think about how these authors thought about justice. And then we'll look at a book you've probably heard of, right, which is Beloved by Toni Morrison. And we'll think about ideas of racial justice or injustice in that book. And that's something I think students really tend to enjoy in the past. And we'll finish the course by thinking about climate justice. What is climate justice? What does that mean? Who is most affected by climate change and who's least affected? Because I think when we hear and see in politics about climate change, right, some people really aren't that concerned. And those people are the people that are actually the least affected by climate change. It is people who are, the poorest, who have the least, that are most affected by climate change, right? When you look at hurricanes wiping things out, if people don't have insurance, that's everything they own. So, so that's a bit of what we'll be doing. Thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email, or I can hang out until the end too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Professor Penrose. Sounds so interesting and exciting.
Thank you.
Now we have Higher Education and the American Dream with Professor Martha Enciso.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Enciso. Pronouns are she, her, hers, and ella. I'm teaching a new course called Higher Education and the American Dream. So in this course, we're going to take a look at the notion of the American Dream and how some folks are really striving towards achieving the American Dream via higher education. So we're going to explore social identity. So we're going to examine our own identity and how this is related to the notion of the American Dream. And we're also going to explore the history of higher education. So taking a look at how we came to be universities and how this explains why certain issues are still going on campus, and how we interact with one another also contributes to the way colleges shape and mold. So this course is going to be exploring different equity issues on college campuses. We're going to examine SDSU as well, and also reflect on our Neural's experience as a college student. This course will be of particular interest for folks who are interested in going into higher education for a career, as well as any student affairs folks, academic advisors, counselors, etc. So folks in the education realm might be particularly interested in this course. In terms of the length of time, we won't go the entire time. For folks who have been in some of my previous courses, it'll function the same way. We're focusing mainly on discussions. If any readings are required, they'll be provided to you at no cost, as well as we're focusing maybe more on our own experiences for this particular course. I'll be around if folks have any questions or concerns, and I can take any questions right now if anybody has any.
I have a question.
Sure.
It says on the email with the list of 313 classes that your class is on Tuesday, but on the PowerPoint it says Thursday. Is it on Tuesday or Thursday?
It's on Tuesday.
Tuesday? Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Error on the PowerPoint.
It's all good, Morgan.
Awesome. We can move on. If anyone has any questions for Dr. Enciso, you can say that at the end. And Global Food Security with Professor Jim Murin. I honestly did not get an email back from him either, but that's okay. You can refer to the course description in the email that Michelle Knowlton sent out. Also with Professor Kornfeld's Intellectuals in 20th Century Europe, I did not get a response back either. So again, refer to the course descriptions. With Professor Michael Caldwell, I don't think he's on here either. So again, check out the email for some more information on that. For Literature and Law, Professor Tishna Asim, she sent a video as well because she cannot make it. So let's watch that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tishna Asim, and I'm a lecturer in the Department of English and Comparative Literature. I'm also a criminal defense attorney, specifically a trial lawyer. And so my section of Honor 313 focuses on criminal law and literature and where those two elements combine or collide, perhaps. In terms of the format of the class, we will be meeting synchronously, and so discussion is going to be an essential part of our inquiry all semester. You will be required to write one research paper, about 8 to 10 pages in length. Excuse me. You will also be required to write 4 journal-style shorter essays that are still argumentative pieces, but that are more subjective and personal in terms of how you interact with a specific theme or idea within the text. Speaking of text, we'll be looking at lots of different kinds of text from lots of different eras. Short story, novel, film, and perhaps graphic novel and drama will structure our semester. We'll be using Canvas, and you will also be required to do one sort of in-class presentation in front of me and your peers that can either be as an individual project or as a group project that investigates a text that we're not working on together. Additionally, there are no exams for my class. And if any of this sounds interesting to you, then I look forward to seeing you in January on Zoom. Take care. Have a good evening.
So thank you so much to her. She said, again, if you have any questions, feel free to email her as well. And Professor Hornberger could not make it tonight either. She's teaching multidisciplinary perspectives on child and family well-being, and I did not get a video from her either. So for more information, check out that course description. Now we're moving on to Honor 413. Honor 413, if you achieve 60 or more units during the spring 2021 semester, it overlaps with the IVB Explorations, Social and Behavioral Sciences requirement, and it also checks off that cultural diversity requirement. And if anyone has any questions regarding that, Michelle Knowlton is here and she can answer those at the end for you guys. So for course-wise, we have Intersection and Human Sexuality with Professor CCmorik, the Reproductive Justice with Professor Jocelyn Kilmer, Purpose, Perspective, and Human Connection with Professor Carlos Bacrae, and Lived Experience of Immigrants and Refugees with Professor Jill Espenshade. And all these courses are online, as mentioned before. So we have Professor CCmorik's class on intersection and human sexuality, and she sent a video, so let's watch that.
Hi, my name is CCmorik George, and I will be teaching Intersectionality of Human Sexuality. So this course, we're going to use a reproductive justice lens to really look at the link between social justice movements and sex and sexuality, as well as reproductive health. We're also going to look at how systems of oppression impact our access to sexual health and how it contributes to health disparities in our society and our country and our world. We'll also review how majority groups have set up standards around what society deems as normal and how these standards have really influenced our societal views around relationships, gender roles, what is healthy and unhealthy in our society, as well as how it has contributed to stigma that is perpetuated over and over again when we talk about sex and sexuality. Learning will take place through classroom lectures and small group discussions, and assignments will include several essays as well as exams that will be completed online. Thank you.
So she said, again, if you have any questions, to feel free to email her. She would love to hear from you guys. And Professor Kilmer, I did not receive a response from her either, but check out that course description in the email on reproductive justice. Professor Carlos Bacrae could not make it either. His class Purpose, Perspective, and Human Connection. I did not receive a video from him either, so we can get more information from the email. But we do have Professor Jill Espenshade here tonight talking about lived experience of immigrants and refugees.
Hi, everybody. How are you? I hope you're all doing well. I am teaching this course. I've taught it for, I think, about 10 years now. One unique thing about this course is it is a service learning course. So when I say the lived experience of immigrants and refugees, you will actually be working with immigrants and refugees, as well as discussing both kind of academic material about the experience of immigrants and refugees, and we'll be seeing documentaries, films, fictional films, and reading both fiction and nonfiction to get the broadest perspective possible on this experience. So rather than a class where you study, oh, what effects do refugees have on the United States, or what is the effect on the job market, or questions like that, this is really about the experience of immigrants and refugees themselves, from their perspective, and also from analysis that's been done about their experience. So there are 4 sections to the course. The first one is kind of an opening, giving us some background in policy and reception, excuse me, and then the other 3 sections are on class and the disruptions to people's careers, their jobs, their class status, how that all changes and gets adjusted with immigration. And then we look at the same thing for racial identity and gender identity, how those things shift and change in the process of immigration, and in the difference between the experience in the new country and the sending country. It is focused on the United States, although we have a little bit of context, but it really is focused mostly on the United States, and we look at the experience of immigrants from all over the world, from many different places, in looking at novels and movies and documentaries, so you get a broad swath. In terms of the community service learning, you're expected to do 20 hours over the semester. I don't know if that will be adjusted. I'm meeting with the International Rescue Committee, that's our partner organization. They're one of the biggest refugee resettlement organizations in the world. They have offices in San Diego and in El Cajon, and they work with high school, well, with school-age children, largely with high schoolers and community college students. And so in normal times, you would be going to Crawford High or Hoover High or one of the places in El Cajon and working with them in their tutorials after school. In these times, you'll do that work virtually. So as I said, in the past, it's been 20 hours. It might be less than that, but basically you'll have a student, probably you'll have one student that's assigned to you, and you'll do 1 or 2 hours of tutoring a week over Zoom with that refugee or immigrant student. And so you'll really get to know that student and be a really important support person. And for our students, SDSU students, it's, you know, one of their favorite parts of the class is really getting to know someone and who's going through a lot of what we're discussing, or whose family is going through a lot of what we're discussing in the class, and really being able to support them in their transition to the United States. And it is also something you can put on your resume. It really helps. I've had students apply for all sorts of graduate programs, including medical school, and written recommendations for them where they need to have, you know, some experience in diverse community kind of show their experience with diverse communities. And so this gives you not only that experience, but the ability to talk about that in future endeavors. So I think it's really, really helpful to students in their learning process, and also in their trajectories forward. So the class is a seminar. We meet twice a week. It's scheduled for 1 hour and 15 minutes. If we run out of things to say about the reading and the material before that, we can stop early, but you should have that time period set aside. And basically each class, we discuss the article, the movie, the relationship between them. And then at the end of every section, the policy section, the section on class, the section on race, the section on gender, you write some kind of essay, short essay that kind of summarizes your understanding of the material. So there are no exams per se. And then you keep a journal about your tutoring experience. So I think that's the broad swath of the class. And I'm happy to take questions since I'm here live. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay. You know, immigration is a really important topic in our world, in our country, and in our city. And so I hope that some of you will come and, you know, bring your own experiences if your family has experiences with this, and come with an open mind to learn more about it. So I welcome you all, and I hope to see some of you in January. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Professor Husband-Shea. That was great, very insightful. Does anyone have any questions about any of the courses, any advising questions for Michelle? Feel free, whatever you guys have.
I have a question for Dr. Nziso. Class, I know she mentioned about social identities and higher education and the American dream. I don't know if she went over the exams or the kinds of projects she will be having in her class.
So I'm still designing the course, but I don't have any exams planned for the course. So I'm looking at having presentations, but a lot of the class will be more discussion based. But I don't do exams.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else, feel free, even put it in the chat if you don't want to unmute yourself.
I know I think it's on the, I guess it's on campus too, but so could I take like honors, honors 300 something one and the honors 400 something in the same semester, or would it have to be different?
Hi, I can answer that. I'm Michelle, the advisor. You can take the 313 along with the 413. And the only thing to note is that the 413 can only be taken if you have that upper division standing. So you definitely could, if that's your status and you do have upper division standing, you can take 313 and 413. Another common question is if you can take two 313s together. So yes, you can also do that. Another question is if you can take 413 before you take a 313. And again, yes, you can, as long as you have that upper division standing. So that's the only thing that really needs to be in place. But yes, you can take any combination of those courses together.
Thank you. And never mind, I forgot.
And then there's another
I think
question.
go for it.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I think you were gonna talk about the question in the chat.
Which covers the cultural diversity requirement.
Yeah, so every single honor 413 class covers the cultural diversity. So it doesn't matter which one. All the 413s cover cultural diversity and your upper division explorations GE, specifically the social and behavioral sciences one.
I remember my question. So you can take 13 like the same semester you reach upper division status?
Yeah, so as an example, let's say you've finished, let's say by the end of the fall, with all the classes you're taking now, you're gonna finish 55 units as an example. And then let's say you're taking 15 units in the spring, and part of those 15 units are your Honor 413 class. So by the end of the spring semester with those classes, you're going to finish 60 or more units. So you don't have to have 60 units done by the end of fall. You have to have 60 units done by the end of the semester when you take that class. I know it's kind of complicated. So if anyone has any specific questions about their status and if they're eligible, then you're welcome to email me or do drop-ins on Friday or make an appointment.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle, for answering those questions. Does anyone else have anything they want to ask?
Hi, I have a question. Professor Walter, I think he mentioned it, but I don't write it down. How he's gonna grade the class? Like, he's gonna have exams or quizzes, or how he's gonna grade it?
For which professor are you asking for?
Walter.
Did you mean me, Walter Penrose?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I thought you were talking about Professor Welker. Yeah, so I tend to give papers and possibly, so the last time I had the class, there were 3 short papers that students had to write, and then some journal entries, kind of like response papers. So it's no exams or quizzes, it's writing. And, you know, a lot of a lot of discussion in class. And so we will meet for the full hour and 15 minutes. It's Tuesday, Thursday, 9:30 to 10:45.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any last minute things?
Did Professor Harley leave? I think Professor Harley had to leave.
He did.
Okay. I'll email him. Or her, I forget. I think.
I have a question. Who was the professor for 313 that sent the last video that you put on?
Let me see. Professor CCmorik. CMORYK. Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
I'm sorry for all my questions, but you said that we could take 2 313 classes?
Yes, you can. You can take them both at the same time. And just to make a quick note, I know sometimes sophomores have trouble getting into the honors classes because typically sophomores are registering last. So you can certainly plan for honors classes, but definitely have a backup, maybe another major class, maybe another GE course, just in case you don't get into a 313. But, you know, depending on your registration time, you could, yes, to answer that question, you can take 2 313s at the same time.
Awesome. If there's no further questions from anyone, then we can stop the meeting. Oh, never mind. There's one in the chat. Are we supposed to take 2 313 classes?
Yeah, so the course, after everyone takes the Honor 100, Honor 113 courses, usually your first year in honors, then you take the 2 sections of Honor 313, different topics. Honor 413, that's the one that overlaps with GEs. And then the capstone course, so that's Honor 495. So that's a total of 16 units for the minor. I know it's kind of confusing. On the honors Blackboard page, if you go to the honors minor requirements tab, you'll be able to find a visual representation, kind of like a flow chart of this. and it's a little bit easier to decipher that if you have more of a visual person. And I know there's a question about freshmen taking an honors class. Definitely, you don't have to worry about that. We actually, freshmen are not eligible to take honors classes in the spring because those are reserved for all of our upperclassmen, sophomores, and onward. And we want freshmen to focus on their major courses and GE courses so that they can take care of those. Oh, and it looks like Dr. Enciso put the snapshots in the chat. So if you want a visual representation, that's a really good way to look at the courses.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of the Blackboard page, and even not just for classes and advising, but all the opportunities that Dr. Enciso puts on there. Super helpful. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, great. If not, then we can end the meeting here. I know all these professors taking time out of their probably super duper busy schedules to come talk. I really, really appreciate it. And I know the students did as well. Thank you all so much for coming tonight, and look out for this recording that will be emailed out to you and posted on our Honors YouTube channel, as well as the Blackboard page. So thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday night.